You are Locked On Cowboys Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Dallas, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Here we go, and happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Welcome to the first debut edition of the Locked On Cowboys Postcast show. Now, again, we have Locked On Cowboys podcast every single day. Great job with Marcus and Landon. This is in addition to their coverage, but we're great to be with you. Happy to be with you on this Thanksgiving night after a Cowboys win. My name is Jeff Biggs. It is an honor and a pleasure to be joined by former Cowboys assistant, now great dad, most importantly, but also media personality, Glenn Stretch Smith. Glenn, happy Thanksgiving, my friend. Cowboys win. They beat the Giants 27-20. Before I bring you on, I want to let everybody know we are brought to you by Prize Picks. Crossover Thursday is presented by Prize Picks. Download the app and use code LOCKEDONNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. All right, well, they played today, and Glenn, the streak is over. The Cowboys finally win again at home.
Yeah, win a home game and, win on a Thanksgiving Day on that stage. The best thing was we didn't see anybody jump in the red kettle. I mean, I think that's a positive. So you can't give up cheap 15-yard penalties. But, I mean, to me, you're starting to see a Cowboys team that feels like, hey, all of a sudden they're getting a little more healthy. All of a sudden they're getting Cooks back in the lineup. They're getting guys that are creating problems for you from a matchup standpoint. You got Parsons doing what he's doing on defense. You got a team that is 1-2 in a row. I don't care if it's Dallas, New York City, Bemidji, Minnesota. It doesn't matter. Right at this point, you got to win and string some wins together. And that's exactly what the Cowboys did. They went out and ran the football. First time they've had it back all year, get 100 yards. And, hey, we're not on here to recite stats. But at the end of the day, when it's been the first time that you've rushed for 100 yards in your home stadium, you're playing better on defense, you got to give a complete win. And you got to give Mike McCarthy some credit. Guess what? 2 weeks ago, when there was 8 weeks of football left, it looked like this team had shut it down. It really did. I'm thinking, we're at the end of the year, and we're talking about a guy who's coaching on the last year of his contract, Jeff, and you're wondering, is this team really going to come out and play? All of a sudden, they go to Washington, get a big win in Washington, and come back here on Thanksgiving Day and get this win. And all of a sudden, things start to feel a little better at the Star right now.
Absolutely. And I'm curious. I mean, you know this team. This has been one of the better teams in the NFC for the last several years. And even more than that, Glenn, I mean, they have been dominant at AT&T. And coming into the game today, and I don't want to harp on this, but just a final thought, because you've been a coach, you've been around the team, to the Cowboys coming into this game today were the only team in pro sports in all of North America that had not won a home game in calendar year 2024. I mean, you have to go back to literally last year until they won. So again, maybe we make more about it, maybe not you, but sometimes the media, but it's a big deal to win at home and to finally get that first win at home. I know there's a lot of other stories, but that had to be kind of bothering the team a little bit to keep hearing about that.
Well, sure it does. But guess what? It also bothers them when they walk in the training room before they go out to practice and all four defensive ends are in there getting treatment. Yeah. And you're playing with third-string guys. And so, hey, I got news for you. Does it feel good, I'm sure, to win at AT&T? Of course it does. Does it feel better when you don't have a 4x10 piece of metal fall out of the top of it when you open the roof for the first time in 2 years? Sure it does. There are a lot of things that feel like they're turning around for a Cowboys team right now that, quite frankly, the first 10 games of the season were not playing good football. Now you look at it, and when guys are start to come out of that training room and you see guys starting to get healthy again, now you're starting to understand why this team has been successful in the last few years.
we were talking about this before, and I want to let everybody know, coming up, we're going to get into some of the specific highlights, and we're going to go over some of the key plays. A lot of people stepped up today to get this win. And again, in addition to what we were talking about winning at home, I mean, this Cowboys team coming off a very emotional win on Sunday at Washington. That was a wild game, as you know, with a wild finish. And it's a quick turnaround. I mean, to come back, and I don't care how bad the Giants are coming in at 2-9, now 2-10. You know, Glenn, I mean, this is Thanksgiving Day in the NFL. I mean, these guys, whoever, they're jacked up to play, right? I mean, they know everybody.
Yeah, 100%, Jeff. I mean, they're anybody that comes in and knows that the country is watching you. Guess what? You're going to go put your best efforts on the field. I know Malik Neighbors had challenged his team last week, and you know, when they were playing Tampa, saying, "Hey, we've got some guys that are soft." Well, hey, when everybody is watching you, and you know, I understand some people are probably in a tryptophan coma, but at the end of the day, the country has got their eyes on the game. And guess what? You knew you were going to get the best out of what the Giants had to put out there. And Drew Lock has played some NFL football.
Yeah,
he's not a guy that hasn't been in some NFL games, and so you knew you were going to get probably that's the best that the Giants have right there. You took their best shot. There's no question about that. Now they've got they've got some guys that are banged up and injured too. But at the end of the day, Jeff, you took their best shot and you were able to get a win at home. And I think what you're saying is, hey, they needed a win at home, which they did, and they needed to go out and beat a Giants team that they were favored and should have beaten.
Yeah, this is kind of what the Cowboys needed. And maybe, you know what, maybe in fairness, I mean, maybe after Dak went out, I know one of the thoughts that I had was with Cooper Rush. I mean, this is a guy, not a second year guy out of college. I mean, he's been around the team, 6-7 years now. So he knows the team, he knows the offense. Doesn't mean he gets a lot of reps, but he knows. And I think maybe what freaked people out, maybe me a little bit, was he didn't look comfortable at all in that Eagles game. And so we've seen him, though, to his credit, he's improved week by week by week. And tonight wasn't perfect, but there were good moments and there were key game-winning plays that they needed to make, and they did, and they won the game.
Well, yeah, you make the point. When you come off the bench and you go against Vic Fangio, who's the defensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles, he's as good as a defensive coordinator as there is in the NFL. He's going to show you some different things. And I think Cooper Rush looked really bad in the football game because he hadn't seen that. Then he comes in week 2 and he looks much better. He's practicing with his team. He's out there taking the 1 reps. And he comes in this week, and you can point to specific things. Boy, he shouldn't have fumbled the ball down there on the zone read. He's got to get down on the ground a little earlier before they get, when they're in the red zone, so the ball doesn't get peanut punched out. But all of a sudden, the next play, they run the shallow cross. He throws a perfect ball to Cooks for the touchdown. And so I do think it's taken him a little time to get accustomed to the receivers. I think it's taken the offensive line a little time. I mean, I'm giving a lot of credit to an offensive line who has taken a beating this year. And without Zach Martin and with Hoffman in the game, last week Bass was in the game, Awesome Richards has contributed. So they're getting – those young guys are getting playing time. And if you're a Cowboy fan, I think you can't sit and think, well, boy, I wish we would have tanked so we could have gotten the number 1 pick. You know what? The better thing is you're getting your younger players into the football game. You're getting them playing time. And I mean, the only way you get that is to get out there and get in the middle of it. And so I think there's a lot of positives that are going on right now with this football team, and especially with the fact that they're getting those young guys some playing time. And let me tell you this, and I'll be the first to say this, Mozzie Smith has taken, a lot of heat for being that, that top pick. Last week, he played his butt off, and today he played his butt off. Now, all of a sudden, that's a good thing because you have to start thinking, boy, is the light cutting on with Mozzie Smith.
All right. Well, look, there were a lot of, like we just said, and great point, by the way, Glenn, a lot of people that stepped up. When we come back, I want to get into some of the real highlights of the game and two of the, we talk about stars, two of the big stars that I think really were key, and I want to get your thoughts as well. We'll do that when we come back, but the Cowboys get the win today. They beat the Giants on Thanksgiving Day, 27-20. This is the Locked On Cowboys Postcast. I'm Jeff Biggs along with Glenn Smith. We'll be right back with our stars of the game coming up. All right, I want to let you know about FanDuel, and you have to get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win the first $5 you bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner with the NFL. And Glenn, hang with me. I'm multitasking here, checking something really quick. Just want to make sure I got that right. Okay, we're good. Excellent. Let's get into the stars of the game right now. All right. Well, without a doubt, let's just start with a guy that I have to say has really, and this is not, I'm not just saying this for fun or for the show. He's literally become like one of my favorite players, and that has to be DeMarvion Overshown. I mean, I just love watching this guy play, and it just seems like every game he's gotten better and better and better and making more of an impact. And I mean, it's one thing to get a fumble 6 or a pick 6, but you don't see very often, Glenn, a tip 6 like he got today against Drew. I mean, that was awesome. That was a great play, and that really set the tone for the game, I thought.
No, yeah, he's coming on the blitz. The backer steps up. He butts the backer. He butts the back right in the mouth. Then the back's going to leak out, and they're going to run a screen. He recognizes it, bats it to himself, and you're exactly right. I mean, how athletic is it to then bat the ball to yourself, go pick the football off, and go put it in the end zone? I think that's the thing that I keep kind of talking about is if you're not in the game and you're not playing the game. He was hurt last year. Remember, he got hurt early in the season last year. And so, you had to go through all the offseason of getting yourself healthy and then through 10 or 11 games. And all of a sudden, every once in a while early this season, he would flash a few things at you. Now it's like he flashes 5 or 6 times a game, 5 to 8 times a game. And so absolutely the only way you get better is by playing. And I think that's the point I keep making is the more of these young guys that you can get in and play, the better off they're going to be. I mean, you don't step out of your Z71 pickup truck and go get in a Formula One race car and be able to drive it like it should be driven. And so those are things that you have to do in order to see the speed of the game and understand that. And you saw him, I mean, he comes up, bang, he butts that running back right in the mouth, then pow, he bats the ball, and then he goes and picks it off. I mean, it's a reactionary boom, 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 and it looked like he had done it before. It looked like he had seen that play before. And those are things that you want to do. You want to be able to transition all of that onto the field and all of that speed and all of that way that he plays with. He played that way. He played with that way at the University of Texas. He was a fast linebacker who could read and recognize. And all of a sudden, he's doing that in the NFL. It's hard to say anything except, wow, was that fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And Micah Parsons, of course, had his usual big game. Great to see him coming back since the injury as well. And 6 sacks on the game today for the Cowboys against the Giants. They've had some issues with the D-line earlier and then now with the secondary. But I think you can say, I mean, yeah, that Houston game got a little bit weird, but again, the Texans didn't, I don't think or the Eagles, they didn't blow them out. I mean, it was just more of the offense couldn't stay on the field, and the defense was run out there time and time again. But the defense has been in every game, is what I'm trying to say. They've been solid.
Well, I think you make a point. They kept them in a game a half against Philadelphia. They kept them in a game 3 quarters against Houston. Yeah, when your offense is going out there, I think against the Texans, they went 5 straight 3-and-outs. Guess what? You're not going to hold up in those situations.
Yeah.
Last week against Washington, I don't believe the offense went 3-and-out at all. And so that starts to help you defensively. You're playing, complementary football. And so, yeah, you make the point. Mike Zimmer is taking a lot of heat coming back here. And hey, he's not Dan Quinn. Well, he doesn't do the job that Dan Quinn did. Well, last week Dan Quinn, except for the last minute and a half of the football game. And so you got to give credit to Mike Zimmer, and you got to give credit again to the coaching staff, because these guys, I really felt like as a 3-win team at 3-7, they were ready to, fold up the shop. And guess what? They have not done that. And so I'm impressed with the fact that the players are still buying into what's going on, Jeff.
You know what, Glenn, I need to park there for just a moment, because I'm with you. I think if the culture and the locker room was that bad, I think at that point that you just said, I think they would have fallen apart. I think they would have gone south. But the fact that they haven't, I think I guess I think it shows that, maybe from the outside looking in, we don't know everything, and that there is something there. It's just one of those seasons. And tell me if you, I mean, as a former coach, I mean, as great great as it, the expectation is usually, okay, you build and you build and you eventually get to the Super Bowl and you want to win it, right? That's the goal. And so you try to build and get stronger, but there's no guarantees. I mean, my point is that every season is different. So no matter what you did last season, it doesn't matter. I mean, you can go 12-4, but next season is a completely new season. And if you have injuries and things like we've seen this year, the 12-4 over the last few, it doesn't matter. So every season you got to bring it, and things got to go your way.
Right. No, you're exactly right, Jeff. I mean, 12 wins they're hard to get 12 wins in the National Football League in a 17-game season. It's hard to get 12. And so when you look at that from a big scheme of things, and you come into this season and they allowed Dorrance Armstrong to go to Washington. They allowed Dante Fowler to go to Washington. They allowed Hankins to go to Seattle with a couple $100,000 difference in the contract. They knew they were going to have to pay Dak. So they made some of those decisions. Here's the key, though. Week 1 of training camp, Sam Williams goes out, blows his knee up. Okay, that's the defensive end that was going to replace Fowler and Armstrong in a combined role. Now he's gone. Nealon goes down. Yeah. DeMarcus Lawrence goes down. Mm-hmm. Parsons goes down. Now, all of a sudden, you're playing Golston. You're looking on the waiver wire for guys. All of a sudden, here comes Carl Lawson from the player that nobody thought was going to be doing much of anything. He comes from Clemson, and hey, you think, wow, what's going on here? Who are these guys that the Cowboys are playing? But like I said, now Carl Lawson's been playing. You see 55 today, makes multiple plays in the football game. Guess what? Because he's been given that playing time. It was a war of attrition on that side of the football. Then you top it off and you lose your quarterback who you just gave $60 million to. And you're like, boy, I feel like I've been paid with a $50 bill out in Las Vegas. How do I get rid of this jinx? I mean, I got a jinx going on here. And then all of a sudden they just kept buying in and now they've won 2 games in a row. And you watch what I'm telling you. It doesn't matter what's going on here. Everybody's going to start, and it's because it's the Cowboys. People start saying, "Oh, hell, this team can win out. They can win out. They can look for them in the playoffs." What do you mean? He called them dead 2 weeks ago. And I'm not saying they're a playoff team because I don't believe that they are. What I do believe is you're getting better as a football team by playing those young guys. And the more you can play those guys, the better off you'll be. And we don't know what's going to happen. The same thing that has happened to the Cowboys from an attrition standpoint can happen to anybody. And I get it. They've got Cincinnati coming in, then they've got Carolina, and they've got, they got a Tampa Bay, Philadelphia, and Washington. It's a tough schedule, but guess what? Anything can happen in the NFL, and it's a razor-thin margin for winning and losing in the league.
Yeah, well, when you have a defense plan like this Cowboys defense, you have to at least feel like you're going to have a shot to win, right? I mean, I think we can say that Steelers are a great example. I mean, their defense has kept them afloat while they've gotten their offensive act together. I don't know if they can hang down the stretch, but I mean, they're in the playoff mix because of that. So you talked about the young players. Obviously, when you get the veterans back, that's a big plus. And boy, what a return for Brandon Cooks today. I mean, the touchdown catch was great. The big catch on third down to put the game away. But I would have to imagine from a coach's standpoint, when you have a vet that's a consummate pro like him, that has to rub off and has to stand out and show everybody. I'm sure he's been working really, really hard behind the scenes, and that has to get guys fired up.
Well, Jeff, what it does is it takes some of the pressure off of CD Lamb. Now, he had some bad drops today, but guess what? All of a sudden, it's somebody opposite of CD Lamb that as a defense you have to worry about. Were you scared of Brooks? Were you scared of Tolbert? Were you scared of Flournoy? The answer was no. And so the Cowboys went out and made a trade for Mingo. You see him, they're trying to get him back in the game. They give up a fourth-round pick. I don't have a problem for that at all for a guy that went early in the second. Okay, you're starting to see his speed, and now Cooks comes back, takes a little of that pressure off of CD, and you got Turpin, who at least you can get the ball to 2 or 3 times a game. They got the ball to him today on that wide receiver bubble. He hit it up in there for 17 yards. Yeah. So all those things combined help you offensively. And guess what? Those are dink and dunk, easy throws for Cooper Rush to get the ball out of his hand. He's a smart enough guy to know, hey, let me just get the ball to my playmakers and let's see what happens. And that's what you're seeing now. They're not having to just get it to CD. They ran the double reverse to Turpin. They ran the bubble screen to Turpin. Now, if you can start getting Cooks involved like they did, all of a sudden it creates a whole nother set of issues for a defensive coordinator, and that's exactly what happened today.
Yeah, Rico Dowdle got over 100 too. So
yeah.
Too.
But you got to call the run, and thank goodness he is calling the run. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that brings me to we're going to get into the stretch drive next, and that is final thoughts with Glenn Stretch Smith. I have a couple of questions about the offense and Cooper Rush specifically. We'll get into that when we come back. Also talk about some of the other highlights of the game as we wrap up this very fast-paced show. But again, the Cowboys get their first home win of the season tonight. They beat the Giants 27-20 at AT&T on Thanksgiving night. Our final segment coming up next. Game time. Okay, maybe you were at the game today. If you did, I hope you enjoyed. I know it was a long game. It was a long day, but halftime was great. Halftime show, and it looks like there was a lot of good food around. So I got hungry every time I looked. But you know what? If you're going to go to a game, a concert, event, you want to go to Game Time because they have a lot of cool things. Number one, they have the all-in pricing, right, which is toggling. This feature shows you the total upfront, no surprise fees at checkout. I mean, that's the worst. You think, oh, great, I'm getting a good deal. And then you go to checkout and like, what? Where did that come from? You get seat views, right? If you're going to buy a ticket, you want to know what you're buying. You want to know where you're going to sit. So they give you a great panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy your ticket. The lowest price guarantee at Game Time. That right there, I mean, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. That's really cool. Game Time ticket coverage or purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the industry, and you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. It's real easy. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, final segment of the Locked On Cowboys Postcast. Again, a reminder, the Locked On Cowboys podcast, the regular show with Marcus and Landon. They'll be back. They might even be doing something tonight, but I know they'll be back tomorrow, and they'll be with you every day. They do an outstanding job. Be sure and check them out. Again, we're part of the Locked On Dallas channel here. I'm Jeff Biggs, joined by Glenn Stretch Smith, and we're going to get into what we call the Stretch Drive, our final thoughts as we wrap things up. We've talked about DeMarvion Overshown. We talked about Micah Parsons. Welcome back, Brandon Cook, Rico Dowdle. I have just a little thing. I think you and I are in agreement. I've wondered, like we see glimpses of the run game, right? We saw I thought really some of the best runs of the season in the game tonight by Rico Dowdle. Went over 20. The Cowboys went over 20 for the first time this season. What I don't understand, you know better than I do as a former coach, Glenn, that, I mean, offensive linemen love to run block, right? And it's a great way for ball control. And Mike McCarthy is a former lineman. I'm surprised that they don't maybe get a little more stubborn about it and just say, no, we're gonna run it down their throats and make that a challenge. Like, okay, guys, this game today, I want you guys to just beat the you-know-what out, and we're gonna run it down their throats, and that's how we're gonna win today, and kind of use it as a motivational play. Because I'll let you respond. One of the things that's frustrated me about this stretch with Cooper Rush is there are so many times when they've absolutely needed to pick up a first down on third down, and they have like 3rd and 5, 4, 6, and they'll throw like these really, low percentage, fade routes that have to be perfect throws. And I think, well, no, why not? You've had Cooper Rush, and there's got to be some bread and butter plays that Cooper Rush is comfortable with that you can pick up 5 yards with to keep the chains moving. And am I off on that?
No, you saw him do that on that last drive. They plugged through that little option to Cooks. He ran it out from the slot. They got 5 yards there. Running the football is a mentality, and it comes with a certain degree of want to. You have to want to run the football. Now, football in general is a numbers game. You have to be able to number up in the box. So if you have a tight end and 5, I don't like talking down to people, but if you have a tight end and 5 offensive linemen in a one-back set, you're in a sense able to get a hat on 6 people, okay? And then if you want to get another guy, either be a fullback or a tight end and 12 personnel, and you want to be able to number up, you're able to get your hat on 7 people. So running the football is a numbers game, and then being able to get a hat on a hat, or you have to be able to run what they call a lot of that zone read, which is, hey, we're going to take our 6 and we're going to eliminate number 7, which is that end guy on the line of scrimmage, and we're going to zone, and then we're going to pull it off of here, and we're going to make him guess what we're doing. So it really is about a mentality, and then being able to number up, being able to get a hat on a hat. And I think as you've seen this transition go from what was bringing Zeke back in here to trying to play him a little bit, trying to 1 and 2 it with, him and Zeke and Dowdle and Zeke. And then every once in a while they would put, they would put the little Kansas State Deuce Vaughn in there, try to get him the football some. They've said, no, we're Dowdle's the guy. And all of a sudden, when you saddle that horse up and he knows he's the guy, to me, he's running with a little more sense of urgency.
Yeah.
The other thing is running a football, you got to run with your shoulders over your toes and you got to finish downhill. And you're seeing him do that. You're seeing him take a 1 yard run, make it a 3 yard run, take a 5 yard run, make it an 8 yard run. And so those are the things that you have to do. The other thing is Ferguson's been out. So now Soonmaker's been in there for 2 weeks. You've had Spanford who's the other big tight end. And then you bring Lipke in the game today. They even brought Zeke in as a fullback and handed it to him on a fullback pop. So to me, those are things that you got to continue to do to use your personnel and then to be able to run it some out of a 1-back set, run it some out of a 2-tight set, run it some out of a 2-back set. And so they gave that too. They gave that piece of the next defensive coordinator is going to have to work on all of that. And so I think running the football, it takes timing and it takes a want to do it. And right now, with a backup quarterback, I was aggravated. He threw it 55 times against the Texans. I'm thinking, what the hell is going on here? But the last 2 games, they've been able to run the football, and that's no coincidence. All of a sudden, that keeps drives alive, and that allows your defense to sit over there and get some more Gatorade, and it allows you to move the chains, and that's what they've got to keep doing.
All right, Stretch, give us your final thoughts. I know we hit on some of the guys and some of the big plays tonight, but anything else that stood out to you? And I guess on a positive note, they're going to have a nice long break before next Monday night, a week from Monday, against the Bengals.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned that Butler went down, the corner that they had signed out of the USFL. Yeah. He's done a great job, 31. We'll have to see what his injury is. Hopefully Diggs will be back, because now you've got Bland, Diggs, and Jordan Lewis moving back into being more comfortable as the nickel guy. I think that you want to see those guys back. You made the point, hey, they don't play till the following Monday night against, I believe it's Cincinnati on the 9th. So they've got some time here to get healthy, to get better. They've also got some time where they need to work and continue to work that running game. And so I think at the end of the day, you're a Cowboys fan. They've won 2 in a row. They finally broke that string at home. You got a long break here. You got something to look forward to. And if I was Cincinnati, I would be really concerned coming into Dallas and playing right now, because this team is running the football. They're running play action off of that, and they're playing really good defense. And so when you combine all those things, and you know what Turpinton can do from a return game standpoint, you got a lot that you better be concerned with if you're Zach Taylor and you're bringing the Cincinnati Bengals in here to play the Dallas Cowboys, because they're playing pretty good football right now.
All right. Well, I look forward to that game, and I look forward to talking with you afterwards. We'll do it again. Great debut, though. Great to work with you and do the show with you, Glenn. And I hope you and your son and everybody watching that is spending some time with us tonight has a great Thanksgiving and a great rest of the weekend. And we will talk in 10 days, 10, 11 days.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving to you and to everybody watching. Glad to be a part of this. Glad to be on the team, man. Good luck.
Amen. All right, Glenn. Thank you. Thank you again to you for watching. And again, this is the Locked On Cowboys Postcast. Again, Landon and they'll be back. The crew will be back. It's been a long day. The crew will be back with more Cowboys coverage. Sorry about that, guys. That's coming up this week. I'm Jeff Biggs for Glenn Smith. This is the Locked On Cowboys Postcast.